Now we're going to be working on page 3 in your Unit 3 review. Remember, pre-AP you cannot use a calculator, so try to do all the work without a calculator. Now for my academic, remember you can always use a calculator or any example. Now let's look at number 24 and 25. You're supposed to find C to create a perfect square trinomial, which means that you need to change it into a binomial squared. To do that, it means that the 14 you have to divide it by 2 to get a 7, and then you square it to get a 49, so C in this case is a 49. And you do the same thing for this. You divide the negative 10 by 2, so you divide the B, which is the negative 10 by 2, you get a negative 5, so a negative 5, and then a negative 5, and then you square the negative 5, you get a 25. So as you can see, C is always a positive number, since when you square you have to include parentheses. Parentheses of negative 5 is equal to 25. So when you square negative 5, you get 25. Now, if you are asked to change this to a vertex form by completing the square, it means you just have to change it to a vertex form. You don't have to solve for x. To do that, you have to divide the middle term. First of all, set it. So x squared minus 14x inside the parentheses, and on the outside of the parentheses you put 21. What you need to do is that the middle term you have to divide it by 2, so you get a negative 7. Then you have to square this by getting a 49. It means on the inside you have to add a 49. It doesn't look like a 49. So on the inside you have to add a 49, and on the outside you have to balance your equation by subtracting 49. So your vertex form is going to be x minus 7, all of it to the power 2, and then 21 minus 49 is going to be negative 28, so that is going to be your vertex form, x minus 7 squared minus 28, and your vertex in this case is going to be 7 and negative 28. Now let's move on to number 26. Number 26, it's a little bit different. So there's a first step that you need to do. As you can see, there's an a. Every time there's an a, you have to take it out. So take 2 out. So 2x squared divided by 2 is going to be x squared. 8x divided by 2 is going to be 4x. And you keep the negative 7 on the outside. Now remember, the middle term you have to divide it by 2, so you get a 2. Then you square the 2 and you get a 4. So it means you have to add a 4 on the inside. Now what you need to subtract on the outside is going to be the multiplication of 2 times 4, which is 8. So you subtract an 8. Now over here what we did is that when we added a 49, over here you had to put a 14, subtract a 49 on the outside. Over here you added a 4. So usually you subtract a 4, but remember, you're not only adding 4, you're adding whatever 2 times 4 is, which is 8. So you need to subtract an 8. So your final answer, or the vertex form, is going to be 2 into x plus 2 squared, because this is a plus 2, so plus 2 goes in here. Negative 7 minus 8 is going to be a negative 15, so that is going to be your vertex form. 2 into x plus 2 squared minus 15. So as you can see, every time they're asking you for a perfect trinomial, you have to divide the middle term by 2 and then square it, divide by 2 and then square it, and that would be your C. Now when they ask you to write it in vertex form to complete the square, you divide by 2 and then you square it, and whatever you added you have to subtract in order to balance your equation, and that would be your vertex form. X, whatever number is here, goes inside the parentheses, and then 21 minus 49 is going to be the number over here. Again, if there's a number outside the x squared, you have to take it out, divide the middle term. Remember, when you take 2 out, you divide this by 2, it becomes x squared, and this by 2, it becomes 4x. Divided by 2 and then square it, you put 4 inside. Whatever you added on the inside, you should multiply it by a, and this is what you need to subtract. That would be your vertex form. Now let's move on to number 27 and 28. Now if you want to double check if your 25 or 26 are right, you can go to your calculator. Now what you can do is that on y1 you can type in the equation x squared minus 14x plus 21, and on y2 you can type in the equation that you created, press enter so it would be bold so you can tell the difference if it's wrong. So the new equation is going to be x minus 7 in parentheses, all of it to the power 2, and then minus 28 on the outside. So as you can see, you typed in on y1 the equation that they gave you, on y2 you typed the equation that you created, and then you graph. If they are the same, you can tell if they are the same. So as you can see, the bold is coming over the other color, so you can see that they are the same equation. This is how you can double check. Now let's move on to number 27 and 28. So, which expression is equivalent to x squared plus 2x minus 8? What you can do is you can FOIL this, and this, and see which one will give you the equation that they started with. So let me start with A. So x plus 4 into x minus 2, so FOIL it. You're going to get x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8. 4x and minus 2x is going to be a 2x. So basically it's x squared plus 2x minus 8. It is the equation that they gave you, so A is your answer. Now let's move on to 28. Now you have to set this in the standard form so you can be able to compare them. So x minus 3 squared means x minus 3 into x minus 3. Now put the negative 2 outside and the plus 2 on the outside, and let's change it to the standard form. So negative 2 into x minus 3 into x minus 3 would give you x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now distribute the negative 2. It's going to be negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 18. Don't forget to copy the plus 2 down. Now it's going to be minus 2x squared plus 12x minus 16. And as you can, so this is the quadratic function that they gave you. Now let's look if A makes sense. Let me choose a different color and make this bigger so I can write. So let's do black. So let's FOIL those two. So when you do that, you should get x squared minus 2x minus 8 on the inside. Now after you FOIL it, let's distribute the negative 2. Then it will be negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 16. As you can see, it's not what they gave you, so A is not the answer. Now let's try B. As you can see, B is the same thing, and you could have told, you can tell from the beginning, you didn't have even to do A, so B is the answer, but I'm just showing you how you would check your answer. So this is 27 and 28. Now let's move on to number 29. Now as you can see, they're asking you to solve using the quadratic formula. If you're asked to do that, if you do any other way, it's going to be wrong. So what you need to do is to decide what your A is, what your B is, and what your C is. Now this is a calculator question, whether you are a pre-AP or academic. So A is 1, B is negative 3, and C is negative 8. Now x is equal to negative b, so negative into negative 3, plus or minus square root of b squared, so negative 3 squared, as you can see I'm putting it in parentheses, minus 4 into a, which is 1, multiplied by negative 8, over 2 into a, which is 1. Now I highly recommend that you do the inside first, because what if it's a negative? If it's a negative, then the calculator would give you an error. So I highly recommend you calculate that first. So let's do that. Clear everything. Now do negative 3 squared. As you can see, I'm putting it in parentheses. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 8. Press enter. So it gives you 41. So x is equal to negative times negative is a positive. You can try it on the calculator. Negative and 2. Negative 3 is going to give you positive 3. Plus or minus square root of 41, and you calculated this earlier, over 2 times 1, which is 2. So that is going to be your final answer. Much easier than, let me push this up so you can see it, much easier than calculating the whole thing. Now, if it's a multiple choice question, it will be given to you this way. So doing the whole thing on the calculator will give you a decimal answer. So it's better to keep it just this way. Now again, if it's a multiple choice answer and your answer is in the decimal form, you can check the ABC, do them on the calculator, and see which one is going to give you the same decimal form or the same decimal answer as you got. Now let's look at number 30. The first thing you should do is change it to a standard form. You cannot have a 7 over there, so you need to subtract 7 from both sides. Write them in order. The x squared comes first, and then the x, and then minus 7. Decide what your a, what your b, and what your c is. So a is 2, b is 8, and c is negative 7. Now use the quadratic formula. It's negative into negative, b, so negative into 8, plus or minus square root of b squared, so 8 squared, minus 4 into a into c, which is 7. Let me move the calculator away so you are able to see. Now over, let me put the calculator on this side, over 2a, so over 2 times 2. Now, negative 8 will become negative 8, plus or minus square root. You can do that on the calculator, and 2 times 2 is a 4. Now square root of, so let's do it on the calculator. So 8 squared. Now you can put parentheses, you can choose not to put parentheses, it's up to you. So 8 squared minus 4 into 2 into negative 7. And then the final answer is going to be 120. So you put 120 on the inside, and that's going to be your final answer. Now, this is going to be the final answer for my academic class. Now, if this answer did not match the answers that are on the test, what you can do is you can put negative 8 plus square root of 120, press enter, and then divided by 4. Then this is going to be your one of the answers. As you can see, you put negative 8 plus radical 120, and then you divide by 4. So this is one of the answers, and then the other answer you put negative 8 minus square root of 120, you press enter, and then you divide it by 4. And this is going to be your second answer. What you can do is you can look at the answer choice and also do them on the calculator, find them in decimal form, and compare them and see which one is the right answer. Now for my pre-AP guys, you have to continue and find what 120 is. Now as you can see, 120 is 2 times 60, and then 2 times 30, and then 3 times 10, and then 2 times 5. Now there's a couple of the 2, so it goes out of the radical. The rest will stay under the radical, so it's going to be 2 radical 30. Now you copy everything else. So negative 8 plus or minus square root of 30 over 2, and then you divide everything by 2, so the final answer is going to be negative 4 plus or minus square root of 30 over 2. That's going to be your final answer. And that's it for page, I think this is page 3. Now let's move on.